Hello Autobots and Decepticons, my name is Soulmonger and I'd like to welcome you guys back to Transformers War for Cybertron campaign, and I'm still playing as Starscream, but in this episode I am going to talk to you guys about Skywarp and Thundercracker. So I don't have too much time left in this level, so I'm going to hop right into it, and I may talk over a lot of their conversation, but I will make sure and stop talking during the cutscenes for you guys. First off, I'm going to be talking about G1 Skywarp. And Skywarp is the master of teleportation, so he can turn invisible and appear out of nowhere. And he's really not too smart, so he does not use his teleportation ability to the best of his ability. He is known to use his power for mostly just pranks, and usually gets a laugh out of his fellow Decepticons, except for the victim. And he is said to push some Decepticons down the stairs sometimes with his prank, and his life motto is "Don't think, just do it," and it shows for how his personality is. But he can also use his teleportation for the good of the Decepticons when he is under supervision. So he's not the smartest jet out there, but has a very cool ability. Also, as I do go over Skywarp and Thundercracker's G1 history, a lot of this will be tied into Starscream's history, which was the previous episode, so I will probably skip quite a bit of information if it has to do with Starscream, but I will try and tell you this part had to do with Starscream beforehand. And also, if Thundercracker and Skywarp are both involved in it, I will try to tie those two together at the same time. So Skywarp, as I was researching what he all did throughout the G1 series, it was kind of hard to come up with what I was going to talk about, because a lot of his stuff is basically just teleporting behind somebody, scaring them off, shooting, and then retreating for most of the series. And he didn't really have a huge role in anything like Starscream, and he didn't really do anything that notable. So, when Cybertron was young, Thundercracker and Skywarp were both under the command of Megatron, of course, and they have fought the Guardian robots during the First War, and one of the most famous Guardian robots was Omega Supreme. And just a little bit about the Guardian robots quickly. The Quintessons created these Dark Guardians back in the day to kind of enforce their rule. But as time went by, the Autobots also got Guardian robots, and the most famous one is Omega Supreme.
Directly to the Energon Bridge.
Those are the Energon Bridge's power control panels.
Wow, Starscream, that was impressive.
Silence, fool! We need to supply these side terminals with their Energon power cells.
So I've told you guys about the time when Megatron and the rest of the Decepticons went on the Autobot ship and they all crashed down to Earth. Skywarp was the first one to be revived, and he revived Megatron. So after doing research on Skywarp, I realized that this was the most important thing that he did in the entire series, was revive Megatron. Otherwise, his history is filled with a lot of failed attempts at whatever Megatron orders him to do. He teleports in behind people, usually fails at that miserably, but one instance does stick out to me. One time, he and some other Decepticons posed in disguise as Autobots, and they went in to raid an oil facility for their energy, and lo and behold, the Decepticons showed up and saved the day for the humans. So then the humans thought the Autobots were turning evil and the Decepticons were good, so the Autobots were forced to flee Earth.
The Autobots have booby-trapped this room. Fools!
Wait, are you calling us Autobots fools? Because I'm not getting the sense that you respect me.
Silence, fool!
That's exactly what I'm talking about.
And so the Autobots had to flee Earth, and after that, the humans soon learned that the Decepticons were still evil, and the Autobots returned to Earth to continue fighting the Decepticons. And this makes me question our leadership here on Earth. I mean, sending the Autobots away and allowing the Decepticons to stay, I mean, come on. So other than that, Skywarp didn't really make too much of a dent in Decepticon history. There's a lot of failed attempts from Megatron's orders and stuff like that, but I don't want to really spend too much time on that because this episode isn't going to be that long, because this level's coming to an end and I want to spend some time talking about Thundercracker. But I will touch on Skywarp in the movie quickly here. Skywarp was one of the people to get thrown out of Astro Train, and he was transformed into one of Galvatron's minions, and no one knows which one for sure, but they do believe it was Cyclonus. And then after that, we do not hear from Skywarp any longer. Alright, Thundercracker. Thundercracker is a very smart Decepticon, and he's not always committed to the Decepticon cause, even though he does follow with them, and he doesn't like anybody that drives on the ground who looks at them as inferior. And although he does follow the Decepticons, he does take sympathy on the humans. And it's kind of funny because back in the day when I was a wee lad, I would find myself cheering for Thundercracker to stop Starscream, and now it kind of makes sense to me because it is said that he was not really too sure of if he should be serving Megatron or not, but then he didn't really know what else to do since he was a fellow Seeker. Alright, like I said previously, Thundercracker also was on the ship with Skywarp, so he was revived there, and then after that, him and Skywarp were there doing odd jobs, collecting energy, and doing whatever else Megatron commanded. And Thundercracker hated Earth. He was not happy to be stranded there, and he desperately wanted to go back to his hometown of Cybertron, or his home planet, I should say, of Cybertron. And during his stay on Earth, he often got into fights with Starscream, and he would always take Megatron's side. And he hated Starscream so much that one time he almost allowed Skyfire, aka Jetfire, to destroy one of the Decepticons' greatest weapons so that Starscream would get blamed for it. But this didn't work out, and Starscream found out, and then they ended up blackmailing each other. So it just never seemed to work out for Thundercracker, but he would always complain about the Decepticons over and over.
Click away from activating the full power of the Energon Bridge.
And even though Thundercracker's heart was not totally in with the Decepticon plan, he did make an important discovery when one time there was a report that there was giant insects on this tropical island.
I did it! Look at all that power flowing! Onward, Decepticons!
So when they arrived at this island, Thundercracker found a group of Decepticons that had taken the form of insects that were on the island. So Thundercracker made a huge discovery in Transformers history, and these Transformers are known as the Insecticons.
I'm detecting an unknown energy signature nearby, off the scale.
Then we are close. The Energon Bridge must be nearby. The device must be inside that machine. Plant a dark Energon jetpack on its power cable to activate it.
My scans indicate that.
I've had enough of your readings. Use dark Energon and...
Whoa! What? Precisely what I was afraid of. Cybertron is trying to purge itself of contamination.
What contamination?
He means us, you idiot! Quit blabbing and destroy this nuisance!
Alright, sorry about the long cutscene there, but that was an important discovery. Thundercracker, Megatron, and Soundwave all found the Insecticons, and then they would join forces with the Decepticons. So as I fight this boss, I don't have too much more to talk about. Well, actually, there is a lot of history left on Thundercracker, but I'm going to skip ahead here because this episode is coming near closure, and there will be a longer cutscene at the end. So near the end of Thundercracker's G1 cartoon history, Starscream comes to them and pretty much just pushes them aside with his null ray in their face and forces them to let him through this bridge, and then that is where he gets the Combaticons. But then Thundercracker will take part in destroying the Combaticons against Starscream when they are fighting Megatron. Alright, a little bit about Thundercracker in the G1 movie. He was part of the assault on Autobot City. So he went to the battle, fought against Optimus Prime, and pretty much got destroyed. But he did manage to make it back on Astro Train along with Skywarp and the Insecticons, and during their journey back to Cybertron, they were thrown out of the train along with Megatron. So Thundercracker's story isn't quite over, as he and Megatron are floating through the galaxy. They run into Unicron, where he gives them all a new body, and Thundercracker gets turned into the mighty Scourge.
Starscream, what is taking so long?
Just a slight delay.
I'm beginning to question your ability to deliver, Starscream. Do not disappoint me.
So things didn't turn out too bad for Thundercracker in the end, because as Scourge, he was head leader of the Sweeps, which were Galvatron's minions, and he would perform duties for Megatron as the second in command to Galvatron. So he did bypass Starscream there, but later on Starscream, like you guys know, did take over his body for a little while. So Yeah, I don't know who I'd rather be in this situation, Thundercracker or Starscream, but probably still have to stick with Starscream. But anyways, Thundercracker goes on to do a bunch of different missions for Megatron as Scourge, and he's still the same kind of personality in there, as he does grumble and complain a lot, but I think he has a better purpose of serving his Decepticon leader now with his new body, as he is a lot stronger as one of the sweeps. So this gameplay and the boss here is coming to an end. I hope you guys have enjoyed this gameplay so far. Please leave me feedback. Let me know how you guys are liking the G1 history. Feel free to leave constructive criticism. Don't just be like, oh, Mungry, you stink. But just tell me, you know, what you'd like to hear, or if I'm missing some stuff, feel free to add it in the comments as well. So, with that, I'm going to finish off this boss as Skywarp and Thundercracker just fly past me there. And this is on easy, so that is why I'm flying through these beams. I can't tell you how many times on regular or hard I have died in this spot, or my partners have died and we had to play this over and over and over. But there's a tip right there. There are cubes in those boxes down there, and this guy can be pretty easy. So I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. Remember to leave a comment, leave a rating, and subscribe for more Transformers. I'm going to leave it with the final cutscene.
Wait! Something's happening!
Yes! It's crumbling before the might of Starscream! To the surface, Decepticons!
The machine is out of control!
It must be a side effect of the Dark Energon!
We've done it! The Energon Bridge is activating!
Incredible. The Energon Bridge is active once more.
Quiet! You're ruining my moment of glory! Soon, my orbital station will be at full power!
Your orbital station, Starscream? Surely you mean mine. I see you have finally succeeded in the simple task I gave you. Perhaps you're not as worthless as I thought. Report back to base at once!
All systems online. Dark Energon, manufacturing at optimal efficiency.
Now I can introduce Dark Energon into the planet's core. And as it spreads throughout Cybertron, my power shall travel with it.
Entrance to the planet core is heavily shielded behind the Omega Gate.
I will acquire the key. We launch a full-scale assault on Iacon immediately. And wipe Zeta Prime and his pathetic Autobots off the face of the planet.